Hello friends, I'm Sanyukta and today we'll be learning how to draw the pattern Punzel, which is just an extension of the pattern that we learned in the earlier session or the last session, which is chaining, right? So I'm just going to extend this pattern to create a new pattern called Punzel. So I'm starting to draw chaining again like this, right? Curved lines, trying to keep the gaps less. The second line, the second curved line or the C shape is almost straight, as you can see here, right? So this is how the pattern chaining goes. Now what I am going to do is I am going to extend these lines as if they are going under, like this, and then draw a curve like this, right? So assuming that this line is extending like this, I'm going to complete it like this. So this is what is adding Punzel, right? Again, assuming that it is coming like this, I'm completing these two lines and joining at the other end like this, right? Like this. So these dotted lines are not supposed to be drawn, they are just for reference, but just to show that these lines are getting extended, and then I am adding a little curve and joining them like this, right? So this, the third chain that I have drawn is Punzel, something like the plait or the hair you see, right? Looks like that, Rapunzel. So just to show you once again, you have to draw chaining first in order to draw Punzel. That's why I said it is an extension of the pattern chaining, right? First thing. And then once you have drawn your chaining in the manner that I have shown you, you are just extending these lines to the other end like this, right? To create Punzel, right? Again extending these lines, again extending these lines, right? Now again, these spaces generally to be filled up. If they are big enough, you can play around with the spaces, add some tipple in it, add some dots with black inking, add some other pattern if the spaces are good enough, right? They can be good enough, it depends how much curve you are giving. For example, I'll show you one. I'm giving a nice curve here, right? Like this. Can you see? Giving nice curves here. Extended my chaining as if the chains have opened up, they have loosened up, right? This is also chaining, and then again adding the Punzel like this. So you can see the spaces are comparatively larger, gives you some space to play around. Otherwise these spaces are always available, right? If you have seen the tiles that I have posted on my Facebook page regarding chaining, I have played with these spaces in few of the tiles like this, right? So there are a lot of possibilities. Just add something, right? I have also added moons here, so the possibilities are unlimited, right? You can play around anyway. Just add a tangulation or add another tangle and create a tangulation. So today let us draw Punzel. Let's create a fun tile. So I'm going to use two major tangles today. So I'm drawing a string which is generally drawn for perk, right? This kind of a string is drawn for perk, and then Instead of these dividing lines, I am going to draw chaining and punzel, right? It may sound complicated, but you'll see how easily that comes through, right? So I'm starting right away, taking those lines as a reference and starting with my pattern chaining. Right? Coloring this portion like this, right? Again, the second one. Just go slow. Take your time. So currently I am just adding chaining on the reference divider lines, right? Yeah, something like that. The third one, again right. So added the fourth one again, right? Then the fifth one, just repeating the same exercise, practicing my chaining. Right, again the last one, right? Now that we have done this exercise, I'm now adding punzel, right? So with a very gentle hand, since these are small ones, I'm going to complete these, right? So just completing these lines, adding punzel. I'm working pretty small here, so take your time. Adding punzel, right? Again here, so you are seeing, as I showed you with the pencil, I am just extending those lines to the outside and giving a curve, right? As if they are coming from under, then joining the chain. Looks like braided hair. Right? And the fourth one. So just completing the punzel, adding punzel to the chaining. right? Now the rest of the perk we already know how to go about it, so we are just going to be adding orbs, right, like these, starting from the center preferably. Like this, right? Again the second one, somewhat drawing behind, fill in the small spaces. I'm not filling the space inside my chaining right now. I'll see if it needs to be filled up or it looks better without filling up, right? So I'm just currently filling up the spaces, small spaces between my orbs while I'm drawing the perk, right? Like this, right? Again adding orbs like this, right? So I'm going to do this exercise like this, again like this, like this, right? So I'll do this exercise and get back, right? Yeah, so this is how the perk looks after I added orbs in all those sections, right? Now it is up to you. What do you want to do with the rest of the spaces? If you still wish, you can give a small space for the border and then place a few orbs here and there. Like this. Right? I don't think much would be required after we shade our perk. Like this, right? A few orbs. So what do you wish to do inside the orb? Entirely up to you. The small places left here and there, I am adding tipple. Comes pretty handy. So you can add a simple fragment here. What I am doing is adding a combination of thick and thin lines, right? So this is a thick line, again a thin line, again a thick line, again a thin line, something like this. I have done this earlier in my session on cadent. If you remember, I have used this fragment earlier. So a combination of thick and thin lines, nothing else. So you can make use of these orbs to draw the pattern jetties also. So it is entirely up to you. I want to keep it simple and make my perk the highlight of the tile, right? So something like this. Again thick line. You can see I am not making much effort to color the line properly. There are gaps in that line also, right? Something like this. So they need not be colored properly. Just vary the thickness of the lines and your fragment is done, right? Little thick, little thin, little thick, little thin, something like this, right? Then between spaces, very comfortably you can use stipple, right? Again straight line, a thicker line, thin line, and a thicker line, thicker line, thin line, a thicker line, a thin line. Right? Very simple to draw. Again, using the orb as a reticular and fitting in this fragment inside the orb. So you can see I'm not taking much effort to make the thicker line absolutely inked. There are gaps in it, right? Again, thin line, thick line. Again, thick line, thin line, thicker line, thin line, thing like this, right? Again, fill in the small spaces with tipple like this. Tipple, as we know, is an excellent filler, comes very handy to fill in small spaces between patterns, right? So just two more. So we completed thick line, thin line, again thick line, thick line, thin line, thick line, like this, right? And the last one, thick line, thin line, again thick line, thin line, thick line, right? So you can add some tipples here and there, we can do that. In between, smaller ones, bigger ones, like these. Right? So let us now start shading our work. So what I am going to do is add some graphite on one side of these orbs. Why I am doing that? Because the orbs are big enough. So I am adding some graphite on one side of these orbs. I am changing the direction in the second half, if you can note, right? So adding some graphite on all these orbs individually. Right? I'm now going to shade it. So let us now blend it with a very light hand without making the entire circle or parts of the orb go grey. Right? So there are small spaces, so you need to be gentle. Right? So you can see how shading adds dimension, depth and contrast to your tile. So just blending with a very light hand the graphite that I have already placed on one side of the orbs. We have already learned how to draw the pattern curve. You can also alternatively shade at the top and the bottom, right? That's also, you can add graphite in the upper part and in the lower part of the orbs, or just the lower part. Right? So I'm not going to shade my Punzel much, I'm just going to touch the edges. Like this. They're pretty small. If I go into shading it, then probably they would turn gray. Just adding a touch of graphite at the two ends, right? And we'll see how it turns out. Learning by doing, right? Yeah. Just added, so blending the graphite that I've put at the edges, right? Adding a little depth. Right? So little bit spaces left here and there. Just inking it. Yeah. I think that's about it. So I'll now pick up my white charcoal, and about these orbs, it's a good idea to place some graphite at the beginning and at the end where the lines are merging or lines are emanating from, right? Like this. Just blend it. Right. Not much shading required in them. They are looking beautiful the way they are. Right? A little darkening of my border so that I can shade it. Right? I'm just going to blend the border a little so that does not look like an absolute line, like this. Right? And then we can do one more thing here. Just pick up the white charcoal and restate the white portions a bit, adding a highlight, right, carefully to the sections, each of the orbs where they are white, right? So you can see the difference, how the white portion is popping up. Right? Right? What we can also do here is add little graphite on one side which in this one I am not going to add much. I don't feel like, but you can make one side a little darker. I'm adding very light graphite here, making one side a little darker as if light is falling from the other side. Right? With a very gentle hand, I'm just going to just make the pencil a little soft. Right? So that's about it. Now with the rest of the space, it's up to you. It's okay to leave it the way it is. If you wish, you can add some mocha here and there. Right? Not required. But if you want, you can. Right? Just adding a few mocha here and there. And a touch of flux. Right? And probably a little at this corner which is lying vacant. White spaces in the tile also give a lot of get up to the tile. It's sometimes a good idea to leave spaces white, right? So don't bother to fill up the entire tile always. I always do that often, just that here I feel like adding some, as if they are growing on your pork, right? So just a few. Like that. Right? I think we are done. Just a touch of shade on the mocha heads. Right? So just with a gentle hand, blending the pencil. Right? You don't even need to put pencil, because your tortillon already has enough of graphite on it to do this shading. There's small spaces, so don't need much. Yeah, so that's about it. Now going to initial my tile. Right, sign and date it. And we'll meet again and learn another Zentangle original pattern, right, in our next session. So be safe, take care, bye bye.